We are live, everybody. Welcome to episode 38 of The Shift. And as you can tell, we don't normally have guests. So when we have a guest on, it's pretty rare. So today is a very special episode. Nick Earnshaw. Nick, first off, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I've been waiting all week for this episode. Actually, a couple weeks. We've had this plan for a little while now.
Oh, it's
I missed the last time Matt came on.
yeah,
I was
because you're
I was a
sick.
little under the weather. I was a little under the weather.
Yeah,
I'm
and
happy
I'm
he's
sick.
back.
I'm sick right now, and I'm
You
here.
are
So I'm a man.
stronger than me. You're stronger
Yeah,
than me.
yeah,
I'll give you credit. I'll give you
yeah,
credit. Whatever. All right, but
yeah.
I'm glad to have Matt
We're
here.
here.
We're excited. We're gonna
Yeah.
talk a lot of baseball, a little bit about the Mets too. We're diving into enemy territory a little bit for us too, but I'm excited. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Another thing, I was in enemy territory. Matt will tell you,
You
I
were.
was literally at enemy territory this year, just about, what was that, a couple, 2.5 months ago?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually, we'll get into it. I have some good things to say about Citi Field. I enjoyed my time there.
You enjoyed
it
watching
was-
the Phillies get swept? I did
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that was What's
What
his name? Francisco hit a couple of home runs. That's all I
Yeah,
gotta say.
that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. They were like the same spot too. But
Mhm.
no entrance needed for Matt Musico, Mr. MLB Daily Dingers. We couldn't really do a proper rollout here because you're already on the screen. It's not like we, like it did some special thing. But you don't need a special thing because you're already a special person. We already
Oh, well,
you've been the first guest on the shift many times, as we've had a couple of
couple
shift
iterations.
rollouts. Yes. So Matt, first off, how are things going? We come up on the holidays here. How are you?
I mean, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm still here. I'm alive. Holidays always are. I was telling somebody like the beginning of December, like I always forget how busy they are, and then you get to the holiday time, and you're like, "Geez, Louise, like this is ridiculous." So, I mean, it's that delicate balance of super crazy and like doing all these things, and like the kids have all the themes at school, which is like a little ridiculous and stuff like that. But they like to do it, and then also just trying to like take a breather and stuff too here and there. So, but yeah, overall, good. Happy to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh yeah. Are the kids baseball fans?
Like yes and no. I mean, I try and like expose it to them as much as possible. I think my younger one is potentially more interested in it than the older one is, but they're both like very aware of it because it's a large part of my life and my profession. So
Right.
my oldest made a mistake. He made a mistake once. He was like yeah, like you because he knows like I used to write for the Mets and the Yankees and like everything. He's like, so like you like the Yankees, right? It was like, no, I don't like the Yankees. We're Mets fans in this house. And my wife was like, you've never corrected him faster than that. Like, well, it's an important detail. We got to make sure this is all kosher here.
Yeah, true Mets fan, true baseball fan. I respect it. And that's great. So around the holidays now, and yeah, I mean, let's talk about the first thing I want to talk about Shohei Ohtani's contract. Talk about a holiday gift for Shohei Ohtani, sort of, because the money's deferred for 20 years down the line. What I mean, Matt, are you? I mean, were the Dodgers because me and Nick we did an episode 2-3 weeks ago now, and we both predicted Ohtani was the top team was LA, and I think a lot of other people's the Dodgers were the top of their list. What I mean, are you surprised it became a Dodger? Did you think he was going to be a Yankee? Did you think he was going to be a Met? Who was your top team you thought he was going to?
I mean, I always thought along the way that he was going to end up with the Dodgers. I mean, I think that was pretty much the consensus across the board in the industry for all the reasons he eventually landed there. I mean, they have all the money in the world to give him, obviously. They've flamed out in the postseason most of the time, but I mean, they win every single year and they get themselves there. And he doesn't even have to move. So it's like the, all the things that he would potentially want right there. So I'm kind of surprised that other teams, I mean, I guess really just like the Blue Jays were really a legitimate contender at the very end there. I'm surprised they kind of forced their way in. I mean, I don't like when you compare the Blue Jays and the Dodgers and then his situation as well too. it doesn't seem like it's much of a contest in my eyes. But I mean, he seems like a respectable guy that likes to go through the process, and it certainly seems like he enjoyed himself through the process, as I would too, especially if it ended with me getting $700 million. So
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think everyone kind of felt like the Dodgers were going to be the place he was going to end up. They had the most money. He was still on the West Coast. It made a lot of sense. Now, Matt, I got to ask you, because Francisco and I did a whole show on the marketing of baseball and its players. Now, what did you make of the secretive nature of kind of his free agency, the way that they went about it, the way his agency went about it? What did you make of all that?
Well, I saw a few articles get published before the fiasco of him being on a plane and not being on a plane,
Yeah.
where like they were saying how like this was a big missed opportunity for baseball, and I see both sides of it. I agreed with that because it's kind of like when we saw like the huge free agency frenzy right before the lockout a couple years ago. Like
Right.
we knew that had to happen because of what was coming, but it was also awesome because there was just so much activity that was going on. Lots of money was getting thrown left and right. Like that kind of thing was actually like great for the game before the lockout happened, and then that was terrible for the game for a little while. But I agree. Like if it was a little bit more public, like yeah, like I think that would have been a cool thing for people to follow along with, because like we saw everything that happened the day before he actually announced, and how people who would probably never really talk about baseball were talking about baseball. Famous people tweeting about it or posting about it on X or whatever you want to call it. Like that kind of stuff, that was good for the game. Like baseball was top of mind for people at the beginning of December, which is great after a lackluster winter meetings from a
Yeah.
activity perspective. So, but then at the same time, it's like, all right, like we already know he's a private person. That was like one of the things that was mentioned throughout this past year, that he likes his privacy. So like, it's not surprising that he wanted things to be a little like hush hush. I mean, and it's his process. He gets to do it however he wants to. So like I can see that aspect of it. And with it being tight-lipped and not a lot of information getting leaked out, like, you know, I guess like they got to control the narrative a lot more. I mean, he got to announce it himself, for goodness sakes. That's probably like exactly how he wanted to do it. So I do think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity, but at the same time, I mean, I think they still reaped some of the benefits from it just because of the fiasco that happened the day before.
Yeah, so I mean, but you talk about he announced it, but he could have done a whole like LeBron decision type of announcement. He could have
Oh,
he
come
could have
on.
sat there. I'm taking my talents to 2 miles away in LA. You know, going from LA to LA. Come on, that's a missed opportunity, Matt. What are we
Yeah, but like
talking
how many
about?
people talk about the decision all these years later and say how much of a
Everybody,
mistake it
what?
was?
Yeah, hell yeah, it's a big thing.
I don't
People
know.
don't
I
talk
mean, like
about it.
I'm not a huge like flashy guy myself, so like I can
Right.
kind of understand like how he went about it. But I mean, I feel like like a decision the decision style announcement would have been a little much, I think.
It's not on brand for Ohtani, but still,
No.
it would have been fun. Come on, imagine Ohtani sitting in a chair talking to Bob Nightingale. You know what I mean? Oh, come on, it would have been must see TV. You know,
Yeah.
could have
Oh,
put on ABC.
yeah. I mean, a lot of people would have watched it. That's for sure.
Yeah, he was sitting there with his dog, with his puppy,
Yeah, with
and didn't
decoy,
announce
right?
it.
We finally got the name of the dog for once. Oh yeah, it took a while to get out of him.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Matt, I wanna ask about I mean from what it sounds like, do you feel, because there's been a lot of back and forth, the reactions on the contract. Is it good for baseball? Is it bad for baseball? It seems like honestly like half the fans are upset about it. Seems like maybe they're just upset that Otani didn't come to their team. I'm just gonna be
Hmm.
real. What
Hmm.
do you think about the contract? All the parameters of it, everything that comes out about the deferred money? Do you think it's good or bad for baseball?
I think it's good. I mean, I think it shines a light on the possibilities. I mean, the Dodgers did nothing wrong. You know, Ohtani did nothing wrong. They did everything within the parameters of the CBA. I mean, it said that deferred compensation is unlimited. They can do whatever they want. Um, and with most players, like obviously they want to get their money right now. So, which makes sense. I would also want to get like as much money as I could at that particular moment. But with someone like him, like he's making what, $50 million in endorsements next year. So like we know he doesn't need it. He already didn't need even that payday in the first place. But no, I mean, I think it's good for baseball. It just shines a light on what is possible. And yes, I agree. Like people who are whining about it are probably just mad that Ohtani is not playing for them. But also at the same time, it's like every owner could do this. Like there's no, it's not like even like the cheapest owners could do this. They'd probably prefer to do something like this and like defer it to a time where they can just sell the team and not be responsible for it at the same time too. So I mean, for someone like Ohtani, like it's an extreme circumstance because of the amount of dollars that are involved and the type of player that he is. He's like a once in a generation kind of player. But if a team wants to be competitive and they want to go the route of supplementing through free agency, but they don't really feel like they have the cash flow. So like they're the Padres, like they have a cash flow problem right now. But they still want to try and put a contender on the field by making outside acquisitions. Like this is a way around that. Like it doesn't have to be so black and white. So I think it's good for baseball just because it shines a light on what some owners are just not willing to do. But then at the same time, if Steve Cohen did something like this, like there would be a rush to the table to like make some other kind of like new rule about it, that they can't do it this way. But that's probably me just being a little bit salty, I guess.
I gotta ask. So we just did our free agency lineup, our best free agent contracts of all time, like best free agent signings. What would a successful Ohtani contract look like, or what would a failure look like going forward throughout the rest of his career?
Well, I think they want to measure it by how many World Series they're gonna win.
Yeah.
I think that seems to be like the bottom line. I mean, that's why he's only making $2 million a year. So I feel like if they don't win, they got to win multiple.
Yeah, like is multiple. Like, is it a failure if they don't get one? He gets multiple MVPs. He has all the. He gets the accolades himself. But if they don't win 1, 2, 3, 4 World Series, I mean, is that kind of a failure?
Yeah, I mean, probably in their eyes, yeah. I mean, they, like how they pitched it to him while they were trying to court him. I mean, they've made the playoffs each of the last 10 years. They won 1 World Series in a shortened year, so that's a failure to them. So I mean, I feel like they got at least 3 has to be. Wow. I feel like that's got to be like the bar. That would be in my eyes at least. So like in 3 out of 10, like you're still failing 70% of the time in their eyes. But at the same time, I mean, it's already a success probably from a financial perspective for the Dodgers because of all the jerseys being bought and the tickets being bought and all that kind of stuff. And like, ticket prices are getting hiked up and everything like that. So, I mean, I think from a non-baseball perspective, it's going to be an easy win for them because they can easily afford that kind of money, which is ridiculous to say, but it's true. But yeah, I feel like if I had to set like an over under for like a failure success to his contract, I'd probably put it at 3 World Series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know though, because like that's the one thing that I was concerned about when he got the contract was what are they expecting to get from, because if you're giving a guy, I know it's deferred, but let's just say generally speaking, $700 million, he's getting that to be the player that he's been the last 3 years, and generally speaking, when healthy. I understand the World Series thing, but I mean, if Ohtani does his thing, I mean, if you get like 4 to 5 years out of doing what he's done the last, I think that's a success.
Yeah, but he's not even pitching this year. He's not even pitching this year, so that's already 1 year out the window where he's not even going to compete for a Cy Young. So I mean, that's why they go out and get a Tyler Glass now, right?
And Glass not even going to be enough because he's the guy can't stay healthy either. So I mean, I don't know, man. The Dodgers might not win another World Series ever. I don't know. The Mickey Mouse might be it, dude. It might be it. It might be it. Nick, did you have any other questions on Ohtani?
No, I'm good on Ohtani.
All right, well, we'll leave on the Mickey Mouse World Series being the only one the Dodgers will ever win ever again. Let's transition from one, mediocre franchise. I don't care how many games they've won over the last 10 years to another mediocre franchise, the New York Mets. Matt Musico, I know, everyone knows you're a Mets fan, so whatever. What so we're going to start off with the Yamamoto stuff because honestly, selfishly, Matt, I want him as a Philly. So
of course.
I hope you don't get him as a Met, but realistically, he's not coming to the Phillies. Even though they had a meeting with him, he's not going to come to Philly. But what are the chances he becomes a Met? Because did he meet with the Mets second time today? right? Number 2.
Yeah, I think it was they had dinner at Cohen's house this week. I think they had a dinner yesterday. It was like, or within the last couple of days, something like that. So Cohen and Stearns flew out to Japan for winter meetings to meet with them, which I don't think anybody else did.
Wow.
And then, instead of just meeting him at Citi Field, Cohen just brought him to his house. Who knows what they had? I want to know what they ate. But I feel like the longer this drags on, the more it potentially plays into the Mets' hands. And I think Jerry Blevin said it on Twitter today, and I agreed with him, because it's like, it seems like there are certain things that are important to Yamamoto based off of what people have been reporting. The big market, the prestige of like the history of an organization, things like that. He's got that with like Red Sox, Yankees, and Dodgers. So like, I mean, if he really just wanted to pick between those three, he could do whatever he wanted between those three, probably. But the Mets knew that they were probably coming in as the underdog here. And like, obviously with Cohen's Mets, like anything is possible these days. I mean, especially in the offseason, not necessarily during the season, as we can see. But it seems as if he knows how to sweet talk these guys and like wine and dine them, because like he's done it a few times already. So, and the fact that he's still, I think he came over. I think wasn't Yamamoto in Los Angeles, because like the Yankees went to the West Coast to meet with him, and he was just like based up on the West Coast. So the fact that he came across country to go meet with him and have dinner, I think that's a good sign. I think the Mets would still have to come in and be like an overwhelming favorite from an offer perspective, because I don't think there's been any formal offer just yet. But the longer that it drags out, and the more that he gets to consider it, and the more that they get to be in his ear, I think that's a positive for them.
Oh, when it comes to the Mets, and yes, they're going to go after the big names in Yamamoto. They did the same thing last year, and we saw how it panned out. They had to move on from a couple of big name pitchers during the season, Matt. And I just got to ask, like, going forward, what is the confidence? What's the feeling from the Mets fan base right now on the direction of this team? Like, where do you feel like they're at right now heading into next season?
The fan base?
Yeah.
I don't think you want to know. I mean, because of this precedent of Cohen being the richest owner in baseball, he should be able to just get whatever player that he wants. Like, he should have gotten Ohtani, he should have gotten Soto. But like in reality, like neither one of those guys fit for multiple reasons. Like Ohtani just didn't want to come to New York, which makes sense. It's not for everybody. With regard to Soto, like the Yankees give up a lot of players. Who knows how they're all going to pan out, but they give up a lot of people for potentially just 1 year. And then that's just restocked their farm system. They're not going to do something like that. So I think people are just kind of like, they're just starved for some kind of like sustained success, but they don't want to wait for it, which makes sense because it's been, like what was it? 2015, 2016 was only the second time in franchise history the Mets have gone to the postseason in consecutive years. So it's like we usually have like a postseason berth and then like 9 or 10 years of nothing, and then another one, and then they get close, and then another 9 or 10 years. That's kind of like the from like the late 90s to then 2006 and then 2015 and then 2022. Like that's kind of like been what it's been like. So people are just like really starved to like have some kind of optimism. And like at this point in the calendar year, like we saw last year with them making all the moves for Nimmo and Diaz and Verlander and Senga, like that got everyone excited and thinking like, all right, like now we're going to like get going. So watching those bigger guys come off the board and then seeing Stearns do a lot of the depth signings that he's done, it gives people agita. But also it's like we need to have an entire roster. Like I think he had like 15 spots open on the 40-man roster or something by the time he was done with like the non-tender deadline and stuff like that. So there's a lot of work to fill out this entire roster. And I think a lot of what the Mets are going to do the rest of this winter and then also in 2024 is going to depend on what Yamamoto decides to do. It's not like, and I think Will Salmon of The Athletic had a report the other day on it, because we heard other rumors saying that if they miss out on Yamamoto, they're gonna pivot to Snell or Montgomery. And Salmon is saying that that's probably not going to happen, and which makes sense. Like Yamamoto is that unique case, which we all know. He's an ace. He's a potential frontline starter. He's only 25. So that's how they're justifying the number of years and money that they'd be willing to commit to this guy. But they're going to be perfectly happy with just kind of pocketing that money and then going after a much stronger overall free agent class next year, and just fill out the holes that they have with more like mid-tier or lower tier type of things, which I think is fine. And I think Stearns is like the perfect kind of person to be able to figure that out. Like, he's got the small market mindset, but now he's got a really, really deep pocket. So I think a lot of people are waiting with bated breath with regard to what Yamamoto is going to do. And I think if he signs somewhere else, which is, at this point, probably more likely than him signing with the Mets, just based off of the odds, I'm sure Mets Twitter will just be in shambles for a little while, which makes sense. It's just going to be like another, dagger. But we'll
One
see.
of like 1,000 daggers.
Yeah, it becomes a very dark place on the internet that I try and avoid when bad things happen.
It's Nick will speak to this too. Like, it's the same place here in Philadelphia. It's bad. I'll give you an example. I just saw this tweet from right after Lorenzen threw the no-hitter. Everyone wanted Lorenzen as the number 2 behind Wheeler.
Yeah,
and
as a starter in the playoffs.
Nola not even on the postseason roster.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and
I feel like Nola's a special case. There's like a complicated relationship between Nola and the fan base and how they view him.
It was the same with Rhys Hoskins
onto eternity, because he's going to be there for a while.
7 years. Yeah. One other question I had for you on the Mets. So you mentioned the young crop, and unfortunately, I had to see some of the young crop hit some bombs when I was there against the Phils with Francisco Alvarez. But they do have a lot of young talent there, and Brett Beatty and Alvarez and did Mauricio just get hurt?
He tore his ACL.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That sucks. Yeah. But so hopefully Mauricio comes back, and he's supposed to be somebody for the future for the Mets. So there's 3 guys. I feel like I'm missing somebody else. You probably could tell me in a second. But what are your thoughts on the future for the young players for the Mets?
Well, I think it looks bright. I mean, they already had like a pretty good position player nucleus, and 2023 was the year where nothing went right all at the same time. They would hit, and they had no pitching. They would pitch, and they wouldn't hit at all. The starter would finally go deep into a game, and they wouldn't be able to hit, or they got deep into a game, had a lead, and then they would cough up the lead. It seemed as if, like, for the most of the time in 2022, everything was going right, and then in 2023 it was the complete opposite. So I think when you have guys like Nimmo and Lindor and Alonso and McNeil kind of like being that like young position player nucleus, I think that's really, really good nucleus to have. And then being able to add in someone like Alvarez, who had his struggles last year, but he had way more flashes for people to feel confident that he's going to be the guy moving forward for sure. So it's going to just take being able to figure out, who's going to be like those right veterans to kind of like plug in and kind of like make this team more of a whole team. And they really like to have a lot of positional flexibility and depth on the roster, but it ended up they didn't really have very much depth at the end of the day this past year. So I think that's probably something that Stearns is really focusing on a lot, which they really, really need. So, I feel confident in the overall direction of the Mets and the young players that they have on the roster, and also just like the future itself, just because we know that if they really want to hold on to a player, they can. And in the Wilpon era, that was not the case, where they let Wheeler walk for $120 million or whatever it was. It's not like that's nothing, but in the grand scheme of things, for the amount of production he's given the Phillies, like that's just like a drop in the bucket for the value that he's provided.
So I got to ask, because you bring up players that you'd want to keep. The contract extension with Pete Alonso. What's the situation like there? And do you think he will stay a Met for the rest of his career?
I would honestly be shocked if he's not a Met. He showed up to a Rangers game this offseason with a New York or Nowhere shirt on. Like, he loves being in New York. And he's one of the few people who can deal with all of the pressure and perform at an elite level for a prolonged period of time. I mean, even he's only been around since 2019. There's already never been a power hitter that's played for the Mets like Pete Alonso. No one has had multiple 40 home run seasons. I think he's had 3 now. No one else has had multiple 120 RBI seasons. He's had 2. So, I mean, I know I don't know Pete, obviously, but just kind of like getting a sense of his personality, it seems like he would generally like to be a Met for a long time. And like he would be the all-time home run leader probably like within the next like year plus, based on the pace he's put himself on. But now, of course, Scott Boras is his agent, but Scott has made it very obvious that they're open to talking about it. I just think for right now, it's just not the time of the year that extension talks are really going to like ramp up right now. I mean, Stearns has got to fill out the roster. They got a lot of holes to fill. I feel like once they get to maybe like end of January, February, and they're reporting to spring training, I feel like that's when we'll hear more news about it. I think it would be in their best interest just to get it done before opening day, because they're going to have to just talk about it the entire year, and that wouldn't be good for anybody. So I would be really shocked if he gets traded or walks via free agency thing or something like that. It seems like he's perfect for New York, and he is very clearly the engine that revs this offense. Like Lindor is great, but if you don't have Pete in the lineup, like who's going to drive people in? Who's going to hit the home? He's the only premier power hitter. Like those guys don't grow on trees. So like they need to have someone like him in that lineup to anchor it for the next, if they're planning, even if this next year was going to be a transitory year, like they were saying initially, like if you think you're going to be competitive in 2025 or 2026, like he's going to be maybe, I don't know how old he is right now, but like 29, 30, 31, like still plenty productive probably to be a key piece to a championship team potentially.
29 years old, yeah. So he's 29. So he'll still be in his prime years, and it just makes too much sense for him to stay in Met. I can't see them letting him go. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, our boy Bob Nightingale is the one that I felt like really was running with that more than anything else, and I feel like what I love about Bob is that like when he writes certain things, like you can tell when he's like legit sourcing something and when he's just like stating his opinion.
Yep.
And sometimes like people just kind of like think it's just a report, but it's like, I think this is Bob's opinion here. Like he just thinks he's going to be gone, and it's like it's just his opinion. I'm like yes, like of course he could be gone, and like at the trade deadline, yes, he was one of the people that they quote unquote made available. But it's like they're doing their job. It doesn't mean they actually want to trade him. I mean, if they got an offer they couldn't refuse, then okay, fine. I guess they talk about it. But if you want to see Mets Twitter really go into a tailspin, I think it would be seeing Pete Alonso get traded. I think that would really do it.
I honestly would love the chaos. In my just personal opinion, the chaos is always.
I don't mind
always
chaos.
great.
We could do like something else. Some other kind of chaos would be good.
All right, well, shall we move on to the National League East? So, Matt, not a whole lot. Obviously, the Ohtani deal, you get the Glass now trade, you get the Soto trade. The Royals are doing some stuff, which it's cute. Well, let the Royals
weird.
do whatever, it's a little weird, but not too much has happened. Is there anything that has impressed you? What do you think about the Nola deal? We're just talking about the National League East. What do you think of the Severino deal to the Mets? Well, that's something we didn't bring up on the Mets topic here. I don't know. What are your general thoughts on what any of these teams have done in the National League East during the winter so far?
I mean, it's kind of just like status quo for the most part. I mean, if the Marlins don't replace Soler, they're getting worse. I mean, they haven't really done anything of significance that I can think of yet. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised at the initial numbers of the Nola deal, but I mean, I think it was more so the years that surprised me than the dollars it was. But I feel like the hierarchy is still pretty much the same. I mean, obviously it's the Braves, and then I feel like the Phillies are pretty much next because I mean, outside of they haven't made any like legitimate additions, right? They're pretty much the same team they were that they ended the season with, right?
It's literally the same team.
Other than Craig Kimbrell, he's an Oriole now. That's pretty much the only.
That might be addition
thing
by
they lost.
subtraction, but
Exactly.
But I mean, yeah, I feel like that hierarchy is still the same for the most part. I mean, I would put the Mets like probably definitely like very firmly third behind those two. And then like probably like neck and neck with the Marlins right now, just based off of last year's performance. And then the Nats are the Nats. But I mean, the Sevy deal, I mean, I was just kind of surprised that he got 13 million, because like you think about the kind of year he had, abbreviated, really, really bad for a long period of time, and you get $13 million out of it. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like a great career choice. This is awesome. But then again, it's like that's the going rate for like, you know, like mid-tier starting pitchers and stuff like that. So for the Mets, that's a drop in the bucket, and it's only 1 year. Like he's proven he could be really productive if he gets his form back and stuff, and maybe a change of scenery does it while still being in familiar surroundings of New York. But yeah, I mean, like like you said, like nothing's really happened yet. This like Ohtani was a big logjam with the hitting market, and Yamamoto is a big logjam with the pitching market. So like at least we got one of the two to move first, but then still nothing's really happened. I mean, I wouldn't really call Hunter Renfroe like a really exciting like thing that like would get me excited in the middle of December about baseball. So all the power to him. I wish him the best.
Hey,
but
your boy Seth Lugo to the Royals too.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I wouldn't have minded seeing the Mets bring him back. I mean, he proved that he could start, which he's been trying to prove. Like he's a solid like back end starter. Like every team needs that. So, but yeah. I mean, like nothing's really changed. I feel like just like the Braves are making weird deals. They're just like acquiring players and paying for them, and then shipping other players out that they just acquired.
Maybe the Braves are falling off.
I mean, that'd be great. I don't think
it'd be awesome. I think we all want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at us coming together as one unit, seeing the Braves start to fall down. But I do want to kind of go on a historical perspective. I know Francisco is going to have another question about the Hall of Fame in a little bit. But as a Mets fan, Chase Utley's getting a lot of love on these early ballots that are coming out, Matt. How does it make you feel
compared to David Wright?
seeing Chase Utley getting all this love as these early ballots come out. His first year making it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got the.
If you had a vote, when would you vote for it? Would you ever vote for Chase Utley if you had a vote on the ballot?
I would not vote for him until Jeff Kent was in. I feel like Jeff Kent needs to. I mean, and I think he's like, if we want to compare Utley and Wright, like I feel like Utley is getting more of the love, probably based on the position. Like, right. I can understand why he's getting more attention. Like, and he's also had the postseason success that Wright didn't have as well too. So all those things come into play. And I mean, obviously, Wright's career got shortened because of his injury and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. I don't necessarily think he's a Hall of Famer, but I mean, he's not going to get in this year. I don't think. If he gets in like within like 6-7 years, like I mean, I think that would probably check out. That would make sense to me.
Well,
that's about all I have to say about him. I can't have anything else to say.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll get to somebody else in just a second. Let's stay on the Hall of Fame. Somebody who was a Philly and a Met. I mean, he was 68% on the ballot last year. I mean, pretty could be close this year. Billy Wagner, Matt. Do you like Wagner to get in the Hall?
Yeah, I think this is the year for him. I mean, and it's like we've seen it happen with other guys in recent years, and this is like one of the beautiful things about social media. You got guys like Larry Walker and Tim Raines, and I guess really like Scott Rowland too. And there's another one Edgar Martinez. Like, you know, these guys that are like, for most of those guys are getting in like towards the end of their 10-year run, like because there's been so much more awareness like brought about how good these guys actually are. And I think I can't remember what Wagner started off at, but I feel like it was single digits or something like that, like his first year on the ballot.
Yeah, I think so.
Or whatever it was really low, and he's really gained a lot of steam. But I mean, like, sure, he's not Mariano Rivera, but like he was a really, really good reliever for a really long time. And like you guys saw it, I saw it. He was really good on the Astros. So it's like he had that longevity too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think he deserves it.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned something there too, like about Mariano. Like I think a part of that is like and I get it, but like there aren't many relievers in the Hall, so I think that
Right.
you know can go against the guy, which I get, but you know, I think Wagner is deserving. One more thing before we get to our all-time Mets team. Give us some you know, some nice words here on Cole Hamels as he's officially retiring this year in 2024 with the Phillies.
Well, I will say
We're making him say nice things about Utley, Hamels. He's
I'm gonna
never
have
coming
great.
back.
I love this.
He's never coming back.
I'm gonna have to create my own podcast and make you guys come on and do this.
Go ahead.
I do remember, like, right before, I can't remember where he got traded to. Did the Phillies trade him to the Cubs, or was it somewhere else?
He did go to the Cubs eventually, but he was the Rangers before that.
Yep, Rangers.
All right. Well, wherever
Cubs.
they traded, like, he didn't
Yep.
like wasn't like his last start as a Philly the no-hitter at Wrigley.
Yeah, it was against the Cubs. That was against
Okay, it was
the
against
Cubs.
the Cubs.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking
Yep.
of. Like, that's a pretty baller way to go out. Of your tenure with the team after like winning a World Series and like, you know, being an ace for a number of years and things like that. So that's great for him. I'm glad he gets to have the ending that he wants.
Wait, what about the 08 World Series MVP? What about all that stuff?
I don't recall that.
The 07 Phillies, the 08 Phillies, all those great Phillies teams that overtook the Mets.
I mean, how did he perform against the Mets? Do you guys have his page up?
I can look right now. I'm looking on Baseball Reference right now. Give me.
I feel like the Mets
second.
probably, like, I don't think he dominated them like from start to finish.
I know what Philly dominated the Mets start to finish. Ryan freaking Howard.
Yes. I think they hit his first
to
one against the Mets, and then like it was just like downhill from there.
All right, hold on. I'm looking right now. Numbers against the Mets. That's batting average. Opponent game level. Here it is. He has 3.89 ERA, 212 innings overall. So you know, solid numbers.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Nothing we can like go back and forth on really too much.
Yeah.
All right, so let's close out the show.
Yeah, let's be done with that, please.
All right, well, look, we're giving it to you on a good note, right? We're gonna talk about the Mets. We talked about the Mets a lot. We had to throw some daggers.
That's fair. That's fair.
I know. So let's do Nick. Let's do our all-time, and we're including Matt as our guest, and him being a Mets fan, a lifelong Mets fan. So I'm curious to hear his all-time Mets team, but we're going to go in order here. Nick, I want you to go first. I'll go second, and then Matt will go third. We will give 1 through 9. Are we doing a DH? I don't even think we asked.
I'll throw one in
DH,
there.
Matt, or no?
I didn't, but I could put one on.
All right, we'll do
throw
a
one
DH.
in there. I'll throw one in there. All right. So I'll start. Catcher, I had to go Mike Piazza. I think that was pretty self-explanatory right there. Keith Hernandez, first base for me. Best thing I know about Keith Hernandez, man, when he was in Seinfeld, there was some of the best episodes of Seinfeld ever. It was awesome.
Everyone knows.
That's how he ended up on your team.
Yeah, that's how he ended up on my team. He was in my top. Listen, he's in my top TV show of all time. I'll give a little bit of respect to Keith. I'll give a little bit of respect.
Seinfeld's overrated, by the way. It's not a good show.
It's not. It's just a bad take. Edgardo Alfonso, I had him at second base. Third base, I went David Wright. Shortstop, Jose Reyes. Left field, outfield, I just kind of went outfield. General, Darryl Strawberry. Carlos Beltran. My favorite, right around July 4th. Bobby Bonilla had to add him in there. I wanted to add him in there just because it's a yearly thing. We get a Bobby.
I thought you were going to go Dykstra.
No, I went Bobby Bonilla.
No, because before the show started, you said I had a crazy outfielder. I thought you meant Dykstra.
No, not Dykstra. I didn't go Dykstra. I went Bobby Bonilla. He's got his own day. He's got his own day. He's in my lineup. So I'll give him that. And then starting pitcher, Tom Seaver. And then DH, I went Gary Carter.
Okay. Do you have a closer?
Yeah, Billy Wagner.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yep. There we go.
All right. We generally agree. I went Piazza. I went Keith Hernandez, Edgardo Alfonso, Jose Reyes, my shortstop, David Wright, my third baseman, Beltran, future Hall of Famer, by the way, Darryl Strawberry, and Dave Kingman. Boom. Dingers. He had freaking MLB Daily Dingers. Shout out to the great page that our guest is on right now.
Nice.
Yes, Dave Kingman was my outfielder, my last outfielder. And then with Seaver, John Franco is my closer, and DH Pete Alonso. So there's my squad. Matt Musico, the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, we agree on a lot, and I said this before we hopped on the show. I feel like there was a bunch that's like pretty like cut and dry for the most part.
Right.
So I mean, catcher Piazza, obviously. I mean, before Alonso started doing the things he was doing with home runs, Piazza was the one doing it. Keith is my first baseman. Edgardo Alfonso is also my second baseman. Jose Reyes is my shortstop. David Wright is my third baseman. My outfield, I split them up by position. So I had Strawberry in right, Beltran in center. I put Cespedes in left, which was my one
wild card. Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, what I thought was interesting. I mean, like obviously when he actually played, the Mets won. Before, like especially before, like he got like hurt for a extended period of time and tackled a pig or a boar or whatever he did. Who knows? But what I thought was interesting was like I was looking at like the left field franchise leaderboard on Fangraphs for Mets, and he was in the top 10 in FWAR, but he played only like 318 games, and like the next lowest one was like I think like around 400, and so. I mean, for the amount of time he actually was on the field for the Mets, he was incredibly productive, and I miss him dearly. So there's also that too. Yeah, so that's my outfield. My DH will be Carlos Delgado because I love him.
That's a good take. I respect that.
Starting pitcher, I had to go Seaver. I mean, there's really no way around it. I did kind of like toss around my head a little bit with Gooden, but I mean, just the longevity of Seaver outweighs anything else that anyone has done on the mound for the Mets. And then my closer, I put in Edwin, just because I feel like he's already like one of like the top 5 relievers in Mets history when it comes to like advanced metrics and stuff like that. And I also try and think of before I actually decided on Edwin, when I was walking around this week thinking about it, I was like, I'm probably going to put Wagner down. Mostly because when it comes to Mets closers, they usually make you go for your lungs. So like my barometer when it comes to Mets closers that I like are the ones that don't make me nervous a lot. And I never felt super nervous with Wagner, especially after the people who came before him. It was like end of career Johnny Franco, and then Armando Benitez and Braden Looper, and like those types of guys.
Braden Looper, what a name. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So like when he came, I was like, oh wow, like the 9th inning is pretty much accounted for. But with Edwin, it's like you have all the strikeouts, you have the trumpets, which plays a part. He can lock down the 9th. He can come in the 6th and do it. He can come in for more than 3 outs. So like I mean, I feel like he's already one of the best in Mets history, and as long as he stays healthy, I feel like he will be the best one, within the next few years from a statistics standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, also as a baseball fan, I definitely wish Edwin, good health going forward, because he's again, as a baseball fan, not as a Phillies fan, I hated watching that combined no hitters. By the way, combined no hitters are stupid; they're not even real.
Well, it's real enough because it happens.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm not wanting. That's a whole other tangent. But
go another 45 with that.
Yeah, seriously. And so no, Edwin's nasty to watch. I love watching this fastball slider combo. Like when he's on, he's one of the best. And it's him and Hader maybe. That's pretty much it. So I definitely like the Delgado.
Yeah,
that was a very good one. I was thinking about, I don't know why I didn't want to put Keith Hernandez in there, because he's like it's kind of boring. Like I get it, he's a great like defensive first baseman, and he's a very good contact guy, gets on base, but I need some power, man. I actually kind of like Carlos Delgado a little bit. I was thinking about it, but Keith Hernandez, it's a little boring. That's all. It's a little boring.
You just don't like defense, right? Is that the deal? You don't like defense?
I like defense when it's guys like Aaron Rowan and guys like Andy Chavez's catch.
He doesn't like defense, Matt. He doesn't like defense. That's the
Have you seen Keith Hernandez charge a bunt? Come on, that doesn't get you excited.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. Yeah, watch it in black and white when he played, right, like 90 years ago. Yeah, so much fun.
Well, he's a Seinfeld hater too, so he's not getting the fun side of Keith here. So
it's a good point.
Boring. All right. Well, Matt, that was fun, man. I'm just glad you came on.
Yeah,
Well done.
I appreciate you guys being able to fit me in. I had a lot of fun, and it's always nice to chat with you guys.
Heck yeah. Well,
Yeah, it was great, Matt. It was great. It was great meeting you this time. That guy wasn't on the bed this time.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, Mr. MLB ambassador, tell us all about MLB Daily Dingers. What's up with it? You're always posting. What's going on? Is the website still active? Just give me the whole rundown. What's going on with MLB Daily Dingers?
Yeah. So I mean, we're still. I mean, it's the off season, but the dingers never die. So I mean, we're always posting at least 3 a day on Twitter, and then like doing something every day on Instagram as well too. But yeah, it kind of just like helps keep me occupied throughout the winter because like I just like most of us like I just miss baseball. So like it's nice to be able to kind of get a glimpse of it throughout, the cold days and the sun going down early and all that kind of stuff. But the website's still active. Working on putting a lot of good content on there before next season hits. But yeah, I mean, right now, what am I working on? Doing like positional single season home run leaderboards for each team. So, I just did the Phillies the other day, actually. Most home runs in a season at each position. Almost done with that. Also doing a single season RBI leaders for each team, kind of like branching out a little bit to things that are kind of directly related to home runs. So, trying to help people with the immaculate grid as much as I can, pretty much,
Are you a regular immaculate grid guy?
Yeah, I mean, I check it every day. I don't always do it,
Right.
but I'll at least like check and see what the categories are. I mean, I feel like I thought I would be better at it than I am. But like I feel like my like 1990s early 2000s baseball knowledge is on point, but then beyond that, like when it comes to players on what teams, like that trips me up a little bit. But my favorite is when they have just all accomplishments on it. Like I like being able to figure that out.
Cool. All right, where can they find you on social?
Find me at Musico8, and MLB Daily Dingers is at MLB Daily Dingers.
Cool. Matt,
Awesome.
It has been a pleasure. Obviously, not the last time we'll be on here, so we'll look forward to having you on soon to preview the Mets, possibly, Mets third place finish going into 2024. So
I will be looking forward to that, and I'll try and find some nicer things to say about some Phillies, I guess, but I probably won't.
We will have you on like the day before the whatever date it is that Cole Hamels is retiring. We're gonna have you on like the day of to make sure you have like a speech prepared and all that.
We'll do a live reaction. Reaction. How about that?
Yeah.
During
do
the
like with like those like Instagram videos where like like the mad Italians are like watching people like make sauce out of a can and stuff like that. That'll be me with Cole Hamels.
Okay. All right. Well, that is Matt Musico, Nick Earnshaw. What an episode.
Great episode.
Fantastic. That's gonna do it for us. Episode 38 of The Shift. We will talk to you guys soon. We're out.